right, so we covered the Hendrix, the Stevie Ray. What about metal? Metal rules. So the key to metal, distortion. Ah, awesome thing. Those distortion pedals and amps. So click the links below. Marty's always got some killer stuff for you. And as far as that goes, man, just, use it or lose it. But anyways, let's, we'll do a little pedal board checking out. We'll do an amp settings, guitar, humbucker. Want to have a humbucker? You don't have to, but it helps. So anyways, let's get on to a metal tone. All right, so again, got my trusty divided by 13. Marshalls, Orange, Bogner, Diesel, Soldano. These are all the kind of more modern gain amps. A lot of guys got great metal tone back in the day out of like JCM 800s, which are Marshalls. You can find those cheap all over the place on Craigslist or eBay or whatever. Awesome. The cool thing about those two and like an amp like this or any of the newer ones is they have master volume, so you don't have to kill your eardrums to get a killer metal tone. So what I would do is I would start with a little bit of gain on your amp. It's all just a personal preference. I'm in drop D here, so it's going to sound a little throaty to begin with, right? So, but I start with a little, when I do metal sometimes too, I'll even put a little more than that. So it's clear, but at the same time, it's got some dirt. And then what you're going to want to do is boost with pedals. So let's take a quick look at the pedal board and then we'll get into how to get a tone. Also, real quick, like I said back in the other video, if you haven't seen the Hendrix video, check that one out too. Metal tones, typically in the day, guys would, have the mids down to 3 or 4, the bass up, the treble up, the presence, middle or up. And a lot of times those guys were in one guitar player bands. They had big racks with EQs and all sorts of stuff in it. So we're going to simplify it. I would suggest having more mids so when you're on stage you can cut through the mix better. Let the bass player cover the bass and stuff, so don't have your bass too high, because if you do that you run into the danger of just being muddy sounding, especially the guys that tune down and all that stuff. For metal too, especially modern metal, Boss makes a white pedal. It's called a noise suppressor. Those are great because you can get away with just stupid amounts of gain and be totally quiet until you actually hit the chord. A lot of guys back in the day would use those as well. Even guys like Yngwie and guys like that will have a thing like that on the board, and then you can set the attack to when you hit the note, it comes right in, and then you can set the decay for how long you want it to ring out before the noise suppressor comes in and kills the signal. That allows it to be A, really quiet, and B, you can be tight, because sometimes when you get in these super high gain territory, things get a little fuzzy, right, and a little crazy. So you can set it tight to react to your playing. Awesome as well. If you're going to record, a lot of times what we think is a lot of gain is guitars that don't have a ton of gain but are just like 4 tracks of them, so they sound enormous. One thing some people do is they get in the habit of putting too much gain when they want to record, and sometimes gain does not necessarily translate to what you think it sounds like on a recording. One thing I would do is I would go on YouTube and scour all the isolated guitar tracks that you can find. There's a lot of stuff out there where you can hear like, old guys from like Randy Rhoads to Van Halen and a lot of these different, people, guitar players. But what's great about it is a lot of times what you think the guitar sounds like really does not sound like that at all when you hear it by itself. What really makes for the tone is how well the bass and guitar work together, whether there's keyboards, acoustics. Sometimes they record 4 different guitar parts to accentuate certain frequencies. I know Jerry Cantrell used to do that back in the day, and he'd get this enormous sound, but it's quadruple tracked, meaning 4 tracks guitars with 4 different amps with 4 different settings. So you're getting this massive guitar tone. So let's stick with 1 amp and a pedal board, how we can get there. All right, so let's check out the pedal board. All right, so where do we begin? 80s metal. So what we can do, this company, Wampler, makes these great pedals called the Pinnacle. This is a Pinnacle Deluxe. This is great for both old school metal sounds, and also it has a little modern switch to go more for that modern gain sound as well. Now I'm going to put 2 pedals together on a lot of this stuff. I set my gain about fairly gainy, and then I'll kick this thing in to really accentuate, a little more oomph, right, when I go into a solo or something like that. But it really helps those harmonics pop through, or it just really adds a nice little flavor to it, which is cool because this pedal doesn't really change your tone. It just hits the front end of your amp harder. So also mandatory for the 80s thing and even new modern metal, a delay pedal. Always got those things on. It really helps fatten up the sound. You don't want it on too much to kind of overtake everything. Right, so it has a little delay. It helps fatten up the sound, but it doesn't step on the rhythm part, right? Also, don't be afraid to tweak knobs. There's a lot of different, 80s metal had a lot of different kinds of sounds. What I would do also, find an amp that's not overly distorted to begin with. And here's why I say that. A lot of the modern amps of today, in order to get a lot of gain, they have to give away a lot of frequencies to get there. So what ends up happening is a lot of those frequencies that allow you to cut through in a live situation are taken away. So in your room, playing by yourself, may sound killer, but once you get to the stage, you cannot hear yourself, and volume does not help you, right? You just end up killing the people in the front row. So find an amp with a good mid-range quality to it to begin with, that's kind of dirty a little bit, and then just use pedals. Also huge in the metal industry, Boss noise suppressor. What's great about that is you can have gobs of gain going, and as soon as you stop playing, everything is dead quiet. And you can set it to have a really fast attack, so as soon as you pick, it really comes back in full force. And it has like a decay or something like that knob on it, to where you can set how much sustain you want to come through until it cuts off the sound again. So standard from Yngwie to all the new modern metal guys of today, you'll see that pedal on their boards all the time. So highly recommend that pedal too. Compressors, great for that 80s clean thing they got, with all the choruses and even Metallica, stuff like that. Awesome to have a compressor. It can act as a distortion boost device as well. So we got So what's great about a compressor too is it picks up the notes that didn't have a lot of volume, and it makes them more even to the notes, the other notes that you may have picked, at the right volume or whatever. Now it doesn't make things quite as dynamic, but it'll give you, like, say you're playing a clean part, gives you more sustain, right? So the notes will last longer, blah blah blah. This is also a Wampler pedal, amazing compressor. It's got a lot of tonal options, but you can blend the amount of pedal signal versus the amp signal coming through. It's got a tone knob on it, which is a nice feature. I keep everything kind of in the almost straight up department, and it just seems to work. I was never a compressor guy, but this pedal is awesome. All you country guys out there, got to have a compressor, right? Good delay, never hurts. I like this one. I love the Strymon stuff. I know they're expensive. Just get out of the parents' basement and get a job. It helps. No, I'm just kidding. I had to save my pennies to get one too, right? I found a great deal used online, or they have the El Capistan, which is amazing. I played a Boss delay pedal for 20 years. Awesome. Sounds great. They even have basically a simulation of one of those in there. The reason I like this, just a lot of options. You can program it, have a lot of different presets. I like that sort of tape echo sound, and I want to be able to do like the dotted 8 thing, to do the U2 thing, or whatever. So it's just really flexible. So with the expense comes the amazing sound and flexibility. It's got MIDI in case all you guys have like a Line 6 or something. You can control it, or any of you guys who have like a real rig. It's great because you can do one switch on the board and everything will change. If you have other MIDI devices, you can control it with that as well. So these are also great pedals if you have an old Marshall or something like that that has gain. I went and saw Zakk Wylde once at a music store of all places with his band Pride and Glory. Just had this and a chorus pedal from Boss, and he got just huge tone with his Les Paul, cranked up the Marshall 800, had that in front of it, sick tone. And I've seen him on like 4 Aussie tours, exact same rig, right? Now he's got his own signature or whatever, but so anyways, so we're there. Tweak knobs. Don't be afraid to tweak stuff around, to see. Now, if you want more gain than that, I just kick on my boots. Right, you can get all sorts of tones. So the delay, a boost, a distortion. Love the 2 distortion pedals together. Also, one other pedal I want to talk about that's not on my board, Boss EQ. So many pros use those things as the secret weapon. It's like an $80 pedal. Killer. If you take the output and boost it, it's like a boost pedal, but you have EQ. Also, the old vintage MXR from Randy Rhoads to Van Halen, like an imperative thing to get the tone back in the day. Just awesome. So EQ pedals also very cool. BDEs are cool for the metal thing. It tightens up the low and the highs together. It basically makes low sound waves and high sound waves travel at a different rate. It basically evens the low and the high waves, so it really tightens up the sound. I don't know how they do it, but they sound great for that 80s metal thing. Pretty much a standard in everybody's rack back in the day. So EQ, noise suppressor, delay, couple distortions, compressor, a noise suppressor. Don't forget a tuner. Those are super important. But all these things will help you get an awesome metal tone. The amp, old Marshalls are awesome. Even Fenders can get great metal tone. Don't go super gainy on the amp. Like nice light overdrive. But make sure you got some mids in there. So when you go out to a bar or play or wherever you're going to play, a high school, dance or whatever, you can be heard, and you can hear yourself on stage, which is always a good thing to be able to do, right? Can't always rely on the sound guy. So those are just some things to think about in getting your metal tone. All right. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.